There's a strange phenomenon happening that reveals something profound about human consciousness. The most awakened, psychologically integrated people are treating their birthdays like any other Wednesday. No celebration, no fanfare, no existential dread about getting older. Just another rotation of the earth. Allan Watts understood this wasn't apathy or depression. It was enlightenment. I'm about to explain why Watts believed that treating your birthday as special is a fundamental misunderstanding of time itself. Why the people who've truly grasped existence don't need annual reminders that they're alive. And why this isn't nihilism or missing out on joy, it's actually the deepest form of celebration possible. If you've been feeling weird about not caring about your birthday while everyone else throws parties and posts about their special day, Watts would say you're not broken or depressed. You're waking up to something everyone else is asleep to. You're starting to recognize what Watts called the eternal now, the reality that every moment is equally your birthday because you're being born continuously, right now, in this instant. Here's what Watts understood that changes everything. Society has conditioned us to concentrate our aliveness into specific days. Your birthday, holidays, weekends, special occasions. But this is a cosmic joke. It's like saying I'll only breathe deeply on Tuesdays. The people who treat their birthday like a normal day aren't missing out on life, they're actually living it. They've understood what Watts spent his entire teaching career trying to communicate, that the present moment is the only moment, and making one day more special than another is a fundamental confusion about the nature of existence itself. Here's what Watts understood that explains everything. Time itself is an illusion we've mistaken for reality. Your birthday isn't actually a thing that happens. The Earth doesn't care that you've completed another orbit around the Sun. The universe isn't marking your personal anniversary. What we call your birthday is just an arbitrary point on a continuous spiral that has no beginning and no end. It's a measuring system humans invented, like inches or Celsius, and then we forgot it was invented and started treating it like it's real. Watts would illustrate this perfectly. Imagine you're on a train, and every time you pass a certain tree, you throw a party and call it Tree Day. You celebrate having passed the tree again. You feel older because you've passed the tree multiple times. But here's the cosmic joke. You never left the train. The train is always moving. The tree is always there. There is no special moment when you pass it. There's only the continuous passing, the eternal now of movement. This is what's happening with birthdays. You're celebrating an imaginary marker on a continuous journey that never actually stops or starts. You're throwing a party for passing an invisible tree. This is why you feel disconnected from birthday celebrations. You're beginning to sense the artificiality of it. You're sitting at your birthday dinner, and some part of you is thinking, why is today different from yesterday? And the answer, the real answer that nobody wants to say out loud, is it isn't. Not fundamentally. Not in the way that matters. Today is as miraculous as yesterday. Tomorrow will be equally extraordinary. Every breath is a birth. Every moment is an anniversary of the universe deciding to keep existing. But here's what's really happening. The people still obsessed with birthdays are clinging to a measurement system to convince themselves they're real. They need the annual reminder that they exist because they've forgotten how to feel their existence continuously. They need the cake and the candles and the happy birthday song because without it, they're not sure they're here. It's not celebration. It's existential reassurance. It's the ego saying, see, I matter, I get a special day. I'm important enough to stop time for. Watts experienced this personally. As he got deeper into Zen and Eastern philosophy, he noticed that his own birthdays became increasingly meaningless to him. Not in a sad way, in a liberated way. He didn't need one day a year to feel special because he discovered that every day, every moment was special. Or more accurately, he'd transcended the concept of special entirely. When everything is equally miraculous, nothing needs to be elevated above anything else. Watts's second insight builds on this. Birthdays are the ego's annual maintenance ritual, a once-a-year reminder that I exist as a separate, important entity in the universe. Think about what actually happens on birthdays. People post on social media, "It's my birthday," Translation: remember I exist. Acknowledge me. Confirm that I'm real and matter. Friends are obligated to respond, happy birthday. Translation: I acknowledge your existence. You are seen, you are valid. It's a massive collective agreement to reinforce everyone's sense of separate selfhood. But Watts saw through this game completely. He understood that the ego, what he called the skin-encapsulated ego, needs constant reinforcement. It needs to believe it's a separate thing, an isolated individual moving through time, aging, becoming more or less than it was. The birthday is perfect for this. It gives the ego a measuring stick. I'm 32 now, I'm 45 now, I'm getting old, I'm running out of time. This is what Watts called the game of black and white. The ego needs contrast to exist. Young, old, special day, normal day, birthday, not birthday. Without these distinctions, the ego starts to dissolve, and that's terrifying to most people. So we create birthdays to maintain the distinction, to keep the game going, to prevent ourselves from recognizing the deeper truth that there is no separate self aging through time. There's just the eternal happening of existence, and you're what it's doing right now. One of Watts's students described this awakening perfectly. I used to love my birthday. The attention, the specialness, the feeling that for one day I mattered more than usual. Then I started meditating seriously, and something shifted. My birthday came around, and I felt nothing. Not depression, not sadness, just nothing. It didn't feel special because I'd stopped experiencing myself as a separate entity that needed special days. Every day I wake up and consciousness is happening through this organism. That's the real birthday. That's the only birthday. The calendar date is just a story. This is why awakened people treat birthdays like normal days. They're not being contrarian or depressing. They've seen through the ego maintenance ritual. They don't need annual validation that they exist because they're in direct contact with existence itself, continuously, in every moment. The birthday celebration would feel like watching everyone participate in a mass delusion. Let's all pretend this arbitrary day is more real than yesterday. They can't participate anymore. It would be like joining a game you can see is imaginary. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. Birthday anxiety and birthday depression aren't about aging. They're about ego maintenance failing. When people get depressed on their birthday, they're not sad about being older. They're experiencing the ego confronting its own artificiality. The ego looks in the mirror and thinks, another year and what have I accomplished? What have I become? But this is the wrong question. The ego is trying to measure something that can't be measured, the value of existence itself. Watts would say the birthday depression epidemic is actually a spiritual opportunity in disguise. It's the universe showing you that the ego's game isn't working anymore. The measuring, the comparing, the marking of time, it's all creating suffering because it's all based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what you are. You're not a thing that gets older and runs out of time. You're a process. You're what the universe is doing at this location. And processes don't have birthdays. They just continue. Here's what Watts understood about celebration that changes everything. The harder you try to make a day special, the more ordinary it becomes. The more you insist on celebrating, the less you're actually alive. This is Watts's famous backwards law applied to birthdays. The backwards law states that the more you pursue something, the more it eludes you. Try to fall asleep and you stay awake. Try to be happy and you become anxious about whether you're happy enough. Try to make your birthday magical and it feels forced, performative, hollow. Watts would illustrate this with one of his perfect metaphors. Imagine trying to make water wetter. You can't. Water is already wet. Adding more water doesn't make it wetter. Similarly, life is already extraordinary. Existence is already a miracle. You being conscious right now, reading these words, having an inner experience, this is the most improbable, magical thing imaginable. You don't need to make one day per year special. Every day is already so special, it's almost unbearable. if you actually pay attention. This is why people who don't celebrate their birthdays often seem more alive than people who do. They're not saving up their aliveness for annual occasions. They're spending it continuously. They're not trying to concentrate 365 days of gratitude into one birthday dinner. They're grateful every time they open their eyes. They don't need the birthday cake because they've tasted the sweetness of existence itself, and it's available every moment, not just when the calendar says so. Watts experienced this in his own life. He once described attending an elaborate birthday party someone threw for him in his later years. Everyone was celebrating, making speeches, acknowledging his contributions to philosophy and spirituality. And he felt completely disconnected from it. Not ungrateful, not superior, just absent from the game they were playing. He was watching people celebrate an idea, Allan Watts, the person, the accomplishment, the aging body, while he was experiencing himself as something entirely different, just consciousness happening, just the universe looking at itself through these particular eyes. The birthday celebration was for someone who didn't exist. This is happening to you if birthdays feel meaningless. You're not depressed, you're disillusioned. You're losing your illusions, the illusion that you're a separate self, the illusion that time is real in the way we think it is, the illusion that certain days matter more than others. And without these illusions, birthday celebrations feel like watching people worship a statue of someone who isn't there. But here's the deepest layer Watts saw. The people most obsessed with birthdays are running from death, while people who don't care about birthdays have made peace with it. Every birthday celebration is secretly a death anxiety ritual. Another year older means 1 year closer to death. The cake, the candles, how many this year, the gathering of people to confirm you exist. It's all a defense mechanism against the terror of non-existence. We're trying to make life feel solid and real by creating annual checkpoints. See, I'm still here, count the candles, mark the time, I exist. But Watts understood that death isn't something that happens at the end of time. Death is happening now. Every moment, the old you is dying and a new you is being born. The you that started reading this script is already gone. Cells have died. Thoughts have dissolved. Moments have vanished forever. You're dying continuously, which means you're also being born continuously. Every instant is simultaneously your death and your birth. When you see this, really see it, birthdays become absurd. Why celebrate your birth once a year when you're being born right now? Why fear death when it's already happening and you're surviving it perfectly every single moment? Here's what Watts saw that most people miss. You treating your birthday like a normal day isn't apathy, it's cosmic perspective. You've zoomed out far enough to see what's really happening. From the universe's perspective, and you are the universe experiencing itself at this particular location. Birthdays are hilariously arbitrary. The Earth doesn't celebrate completing an orbit. The sun doesn't throw itself a party for burning for another year. The galaxies don't mark anniversaries. Why? Because they're not confused about time. They're not playing the ego's game. They're just doing what they do continuously without need for measurement or validation or special days. And you're beginning to operate from that same consciousness. Not because you've become cold or disconnected, but because you've connected to something deeper than personal identity. You've recognized that you're not separate from the universe's unfolding. You're not a thing happening to existence. You're something existence is doing. And what the universe is doing doesn't need birthdays. Watts had a beautiful way of expressing this. He'd say, "You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself." An aperture doesn't have birthdays. A lens doesn't age in the way we think we do. Consciousness itself, the witnessing awareness that's reading these words right now, has it gotten older since you were 5 years old? Have you, the real you, the awareness behind the thoughts, actually changed at all? This is what's actually happening when you don't care about your birthday anymore. You're recognizing the difference between the organism, which ages, and consciousness, which doesn't. The body has birthdays. Consciousness doesn't. The personality might evolve. awareness remains unchanged. And you're starting to identify more with the awareness and less with the organism, not in an escapist way, not in a I'm just a spirit in a body dualistic way, but in the recognition that what you truly are has no age, no birth, no death. One of Watts's lecture attendees described a breakthrough. I was dreading my 40th birthday. It felt like a death sentence. I'm getting old, my youth is gone, I'm running out of time. Then I listened to Watts talk about the eternal now, and something clicked. I'm not getting old. This body is aging, yes, but I, the consciousness experiencing this, am exactly the same as when I was 5. Not psychologically, not in terms of knowledge, but the pure awareness, totally unchanged. Ageless, birthless, deathless. My 40th birthday came and went, and it felt like any other day, because the thing I'd been afraid would age me, awareness itself can't age. It exists outside of time. This is the freedom Watts was pointing to. You're not losing anything by not celebrating birthdays. You're gaining everything. You're gaining all days. Every moment becomes your birthday when you stop concentrating aliveness into special occasions. Every breath becomes a celebration when you stop saving celebration for annual parties. But here's the paradox Watts loved. The people who don't celebrate their birthday are actually celebrating continuously, while people who need birthday parties are only celebrating once a year. Who's really alive? The person who needs one day a year to feel special, or the person who wakes up every morning amazed that consciousness is happening at all? Who's really celebrating existence? The person who blows out candles once a year, or the person who treats every coffee, every sunset, every ordinary Tuesday as a miracle? Watts wasn't against birthday celebrations. He wasn't some anti-joy killjoy. He was against concentrating life into tiny approved moments and sleepwalking through everything else. He wanted people to wake up to the extraordinary nature of ordinary existence, and birthdays in their current form do the opposite. They say, this day is special, which means all other days are not. They train us to wait for permission to feel alive. The awakened person doesn't need permission. They don't need the calendar's approval. They're alive right now, and right now, and right now, regardless of the date. But here's Watts's final insight, and it offers a beautiful resolution. The people who've transcended birthday celebrations don't disappear into some detached void. They return to ordinary life, but live it extraordinarily. They might still go to birthday parties. They might still say happy birthday to others. They might even blow out candles if that's what the social situation calls for. But they're doing it playfully, not seriously. They're participating in the game while knowing it's a game. They're not fooled by it anymore, but they're not against it either. This is what Watts called the game of life. Once you see it's a game, you have two choices: refuse to play and become bitter, or play consciously and become free. The awakened person chooses the latter. They'll attend your birthday party, they'll smile at your Instagram post, they'll participate in the ritual, but internally, they're free. They're not attached to it, they don't need it, they're just being kind to people who still need the game. Watts lived this way. He'd participate in social conventions without being imprisoned by them. He understood that most people aren't ready to hear that time is an illusion, and birthdays are arbitrary. So he'd meet people where they were. He'd accept the birthday wishes. He'd show up to celebrations. But he was doing it from a place of compassion, not confusion. He knew what was real and what was performance, and he could flow between both without conflict. This is the model for you. You don't have to become the person who announces at every birthday party, actually time is an illusion and we're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. You don't have to ruin other people's birthdays with your enlightenment. You can participate lightly. You can play along. You can be kind to people still living in time. But for yourself, you can be free. You can wake up on your birthday and treat it like any other perfect, ordinary, miraculous day. You can skip the existential stock-taking, the what have I accomplished this year, interrogation, the anxiety about aging. You can just be alive, which is the same thing you were doing yesterday and will do tomorrow. One of Watts's longtime students described this perfectly. I used to need my birthday. I needed the validation, the celebration, the proof that I mattered. Now it comes and goes and I barely notice. Not because life got boring, because every day got interesting. I don't need one special day because I stopped treating any day as unspecial. My birthday is today, and today, and today. I'm being born every moment. That's the real celebration. This is evolution happening. You're not regressing by not caring about birthdays. You're progressing. You're moving from ego consciousness, which needs special days, to cosmic consciousness, which recognizes every day as special. You're going from concentrated aliveness, birthday parties, holidays, weekends, to distributed aliveness, continuous presence, moment-to-moment awareness. And paradoxically, the people who no longer need birthday celebrations often end up having the most profound impact on others. Not through grand gestures once a year, but through consistent presence every day. They become what Watts called genuine fakes, people who participate in society's games while remaining inwardly free. They're in the world but not of it. They're playing the game of time while living in eternity. Birthdays are an artificial measurement system we mistook for reality. Time itself is a human invention, and treating one day as more special than another is a fundamental confusion about the nature of existence. Birthday celebrations are the ego's annual maintenance ritual. They reinforce the illusion of a separate self aging through time, when actually you're what the universe is doing right now, continuously. The backwards law applies to celebration. The more you try to make one day special, the more ordinary it becomes. The people most alive aren't concentrating life into annual parties. They're living every moment fully. You're not an aging thing moving through time. You're a timeless process temporarily appearing as a thing. The consciousness reading these words right now hasn't aged a day since you were born. Only the organism has changed. The awakened person doesn't reject birthdays. They transcend them. They participate playfully in the game while knowing it's a game, free from both attachment and aversion. This isn't nihilism, it's the opposite. It's recognizing that every moment is so extraordinary, so unprecedented, so miraculous, that singling out one day per year as special is almost insulting to existence itself. You're being born right now. You're dying right now. You're existing right now. That's the real celebration. If you've been feeling disconnected from your birthday, guilty about not caring, worried that you're missing out on something everyone else seems to enjoy, Watts would want you to know this. You're not broken. You're waking up. You're recognizing something true that most people are still asleep to. Time is not what we think it is. Special days are not more real than ordinary ones. You are not a thing aging toward death. You are the eternal process of existence temporarily appearing as a human being, and that process doesn't have birthdays. You're not missing out on joy by skipping the birthday celebration. You're finding joy in every moment. You're not disconnected from life. You're connected to something deeper than the ego's need for annual validation. Let yourself be free from the birthday obligation. You don't owe anyone a celebration. You don't owe society participation in the collective time anxiety ritual. You don't owe your ego annual proof that you exist. You're already here, you're already alive, you're already celebrating every moment, whether you realize it or not. Every breath is a birthday. Every heartbeat is an anniversary. Every instant of consciousness is the universe saying yes to your existence. Stop waiting for your birthday to feel special. Start recognizing that today, right now, this moment, is as special as any day could ever be. Not because of what date it is, but because existence is happening, and you're the aperture through which it's experiencing itself. This is the real birthday present, waking up to the eternal now. You are not something the universe made. You are something the universe is doing, and it's doing you perfectly, every moment, regardless of the calendar date. If you want to explore more of Allan Watts's insights for living freely in a time-obsessed world, subscribe to this channel, where I decode his teachings for modern seekers trying to wake up from collective illusions. Watch the video on your screen now about Watts's teaching on the eternal now and how to live timelessly while still paying your bills on time. Remember, the meaning of life is not to count the years or celebrate the markers. The meaning of life is to be alive, right now, in this moment, which is the only moment there ever is. You're not getting older, you're getting more continuously born. Happy right now.